season in the last match for the Tar Heels, which was a win in Blacksburg last Thursday in their ACC opener. Florida State ready from the whistle, setting the tone, but putting it out of bounds. It'll be a deep throw in for North Carolina. Let's love the game from Chapel Hill. What a matchup tonight. These two teams rarely disappoint when they face off against one another. Florida State in garnet, North Carolina in Carolina blue. Both of these teams, Lori, have such great attacking weapons, not only in the players up top, but obviously coming in to help from the midfield. He talked about Hudson and Dudley for Florida State. Two focal points, certainly top of the spear, if you will, for the Seminoles. Plenty of options around them as well. Suarez, McGovern, McCormack, the transfer from Virginia, but this is going to be North Carolina throw.
And that's exactly what we expect from Florida State, is just to play with urgency, flood players forward as often as possible to put North Carolina under a lot of pressure defensively. And that is something that North Carolina knew that they had to be aware of. So being patient, being mindful of when they try to keep possession, but also they have the attacking threats themselves with Fossey and with Olivia Thomas up top. So at times, wouldn't be surprised if they try to go a little bit more vertical, a little bit more direct themselves.
Looked like might have been a thought for that there. That was actually a free kick for North Carolina, and Belligatino looking directly toward Olivia Thomas. Thomas, Fossey, of course, the Herman Trophy winner, alongside Olivia Thomas in this Tar Heel attack. Olmark, so skilled, number 7, with the ball at her feet. Delarose stepping up into the attack. Still going. Now the referee blows the whistle. Nicole Green, obviously some concern there as Fossey was down.
I think it's a little bit more of a scare for Fossey as she immediately went down. It's the collision at the back of her head, it looked like. But those two with Fossey and Thomas up top for North Carolina, always going to need to be a constant outlet, whether it's back to goal, getting the ball to their feet, or looking to get in behind early.
Well, Delarose, we know, strikes a beautiful ball, one that could have a ton of pace. Really wants to try to challenge things early, most likely setting up some of her teammates in the box. Gatino, a great target in there. That's what she's looking for. Goes far post instead toward Fossey, but Florida State had it covered.
Well, not a bad ball from Delarose, just to try to float it to that far post. But also Delarose is going to be so important to this team tonight, make it her first start of the season. Just the maturity, the experience that she brings. They need that for this North Carolina team that knows they lack a little bit of depth this season. So it's about managing the entire 90 minutes, especially against Florida State, who plan on seeing rotate a lot of numbers in this game.
And Damon Nahas well aware of that, but obviously recognizing the potential he has with this group. He won the national championship with them on the day he was officially named head coach last year, was interim throughout the season after taking over for the legend, that is, Anson Dorrance. Damon had been on Anson's staff for several years before that.
Well, already a great look at just the pressure from Hudson and Dudley up top for Florida State, and immediately this North Carolina defense is going to have to settle into this game and realize they're not going to have a ton of time and space to be able to move the ball, possess along the back three. So at times they really are just going to have to lump the ball forward, get numbers around, and then possess higher up the field like we're seeing right now.
Seen a lot of these two, the connection a bit off that time, but Olmark and Fossey, that was something that Damon Nahas told us. He was really looking at connections after those first few games, 2 losses in their first 3, and those two he wants near one another on the field.
Well, then you add in Thomas as well, getting her healthy the entirety of this season so far.
A little confusion in the Florida State back line. Lucky they were not made to pay for that one.
Well, North Carolina just giving Florida State a little taste of their own medicine. Really good attack, just sending balls into the box, and more time than they think, or less time than they think. Florida State, Olivia Thomas just pouncing on that loose ball, but can't wrap her hips around it. Get a good angle. She pounces on that loose ball, but well done. Good start for North Carolina to find just a little bit of space to try to get that shot off.
Well, here comes the Tar Heel pressure off the goal kick. Heather Gilchrist, a veteran, the leader of that back line, along with the transfer Okeke. No Mimi Van Zandt tonight, out with a lower body injury for the Seminoles. So the freshman Jada McGrew, number 3, makes her second consecutive start in that back 3. Cameron Simmons looking toward Hudson, leading scorer for this Seminole team. Suarez comes slicing through the midfield, took some pressure on her back. That will be a foul against Riley Kennedy in North Carolina.
Well, it's a good foul from Kennedy because this is going to be a little bit of a concern for North Carolina, especially with the front runners of Florida State. The back line of North Carolina has to be mindful of the speed that they possess, so they're going to drop early. That means Kennedy, Della Rose in the midfield for North Carolina have to stay connected. They have to drop early, otherwise Suarez is going to be able to pick up the loose balls, run at the back line, draw fouls like we just saw against Kennedy.
McCormack so skillful. This will go out for a Florida State throw. And the other little piece to add to that equation, the fact that North Carolina with a goalkeeper relatively inexperienced, there's a chance, and she does her job first time around. On cue, Abby Gundry, point-blank range, makes herself big.
Well, just a loose ball. Just starts with a throw, and you get numbers around, but Hudson just takes the chance. But look at the lack of marking right inside the 6-yard box. But Gundry reads it so well, comes off her line. As soon as she makes that decision, she has to be confident, does so well to deny Dudley in that moment.
I mean, odds are you would give Jordynn Dudley that goal 9 times out of 10. Well done by Gundry. Now, though, she and North Carolina will have to contend with the first corner of the match. Suarez, sophomore out of Charlotte, North Carolina, back in her home state to take this corner. Puts a lot of air underneath it. Header! And right at the goalkeeper again. Gundry, busy, but doing her job.
Well, Damon Nahas told us coming into this game they had to be really careful about set pieces, crosses into the box. One, because of the aerial threats that Florida State had, but also just with the formation change and Gundry being a bit more of an inexperienced goalkeeper. They need to protect her as much as possible. She comes up big once again. See the ability in the air from Hudson, though, to get on the end of that corner kick.
Yeah, 6'2". She certainly presents a formidable target. And you can tell all the other Tar Heels around their goalkeeper helping to protect that goal. He did well. Keep this one scoreless.
Well, it's initially good work from Fossey just to be able to hold on to it, spin out of trouble, but then that last pass just trying to find Thomas, but they always have players back, Florida State. We talk so much about the attack that they have and the threatening players in the final third, but really defensively they've done a really good job, always finding support, making sure that they have a numbers up situation in the back.
Florida State on it again here. A couple of options inside. And it goes all the way to Hudson. Follow up Dudley. Well, Brian Pensky has to be pleased with the chances his team is creating, getting his top 2 scorers involved here in the opening minutes, but no goals to show for it just yet. Pensky in his 4th year as head coach at Florida State. Of course, he had that NCAA championship 2 years ago. Taking over for the longtime head coach Mark Krikorian. So both of these programs seeing a changing of the guard, and both of those new head coaches tasting national championship success. It's where the standard is for both these programs.
I like what Brian Pensky told us in terms of this team having a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after that early exit.
Look like again. Here, Lori Hudson chasing after it. He said this is what really gives his team a little bit extra mojo. They love to go at defenses.
Well, and this is the opportunity right now for North Carolina to say, okay, let's take a little bit of sting out of this game. Let's possess a little bit, work it from side to side, and force Florida State to have to chase a bit themselves now.
Penny had been playing outside, shifted more outside in this formation. Thomas lays it across behind Fossey. Chance for a follow-up. The shot well high from the freshman Bella Devi. Love the potential and what we've seen so far from this freshman. 3 goals on the season, but does not challenge Addie Todd with that shot.
No, Olmark just looked like she had a little hesitation whether or not she was going to go and attack that ball inside the 18-yard box, and lands to Devi. Devi just getting underneath it, never fully committed and trying to just float it into that far post, but has the ability from distance. Those late runs from Devi on this near side are going to be important, especially if you see Thomas making those runs from the inside out on the front line for North Carolina.
Gilchrist got past the first line of defense, but then it is intercepted by the Tar Heels. Delrose puts it out of play. Cameron Simmons looking for options. Didn't quite get the timing right on that ball. Had Dudley in mind for it.
Well, it was good positioning from Gattino on the back line for North Carolina, just giving herself a little bit of space, dropping deep to make sure that that ball couldn't be floated in, and there was a high back line for North Carolina and lots of space for Florida State. Just that position is going to be necessary throughout this match.
Here is Gilchrist, senior on the back line, preseason all ACC selection for the Seminoles. Some contact there as Okeke was coming out. Defensive player of the week was fouled. Not quite ready for the restart yet, says the referee.
I like that from Okeke. She's saying the ball had stopped. She just put it into play quickly. Now allows for North Carolina to get a little bit more set, but you can already see how confident the back three of Florida State are, especially when the ball is at their feet. They can pass out of pressure, but they can also just use the momentum of an attacker to their advantage, dribble out of pressure, and then find a better option.
Okeke, Canadian international and transfer from NC State, joining the Seminoles this season. Florida State returned 8 of 11 starters from last year's team. Quite a different picture from North Carolina. We talked about a lot of those big name players who have moved on. You see a lot of them in the NWSL. 5 starters from the championship game alone, no longer with the Tar Heels. So that's where some might call it a rebuild, but typically at North Carolina, that's just called a reload.
Well, I think the challenge just comes with the lack of depth that this team has. So in this game in particular, as you're going to see a foul on that far side in favor of Florida State, but in this game in particular for North Carolina, it's going to come down to them managing the game. When can they possess? When can they just slow the game down, rest a bit? Because one thing about this Florida State team is they have experience, they do have depth, and they're going to rotate players in. They're going to continue to play with urgency, really try to put North Carolina under pressure a ton throughout this match. It was about counteracting that if you're North Carolina.
Well, you could see Damon Nahas was really frustrated over there, had the ear of the assistant referee, who then called the center referee over to talk about something. It may be that the assistant referee saw something that Nicole Green, the center, did not. This is the play in question. I mean, I wouldn't think there'd be much question about that being a foul, would you, on Allmark?
No, it just looked like it wasn't unintentional, but Dudley gets her foot clipped, and certainly seemed like a foul to me. Not really sure what the question is.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe something happened before that,
yeah,
and that was just the play where the foul was called. Nonetheless, that is what you would want to happen, that you'd have your referee crew on the field, talk things over. Unless it was a red card type situation, not one that could be reviewed via video. So ready to go now, still scoreless in Chapel Hill. Florida State finds Hudson in the box. Peyton McGovern kept possession for a moment.
Yeah, that positioning of McGovern is going to be crucial, because as soon as North Carolina wins, if their first look is forward, then McGovern's positioning just to pick up any loose balls or deny that entry pass into Thomas stalls any sort of attack, as that's going to be an offside call against Florida State.
Well, Florida State ranked number 3 in the country in terms of goals per game. They have outscored opponents 26-1 on the season. So that's the type of attack they bring here into Chapel Hill. North Carolina, for the first time ever, 2 losses in their first 3 matches. But since that time, the Tar Heels have won 6 in a row, and they've outscored those 6 opponents 21-2. So you'd expect some confidence, really, both sides coming into this matchup. Chance on the turn. Suarez will take the shot, had it blocked. Simmons
mean, just watch the movement of Jordynn Dudley. This is where she continues to grow. Such an exceptional player. A lot of the ability she can get in behind, but so smooth with the ball at her feet and checks at the right angles just to provide another outlet, and then forces North Carolina to come out of their shape defensively.
Gattino looking up toward Thomas. Magnetically brings the ball down as if there are magnets in her feet to the ball. Has 5 and 6 Florida State defenders around her. No foul called on that play. Omar tried to pick it up.
Well, that's the challenge right there, is Olivia Thomas is always going to be the outlet, but she doesn't have anybody with her, and there's 3-4 players. It's been a wayward pass out of the midfield from Florida State, but 3 or 4 defenders for Florida State around Thomas, just making it predictable for themselves. So she's going to have to hold up the ball at times, allow for others to join into the attack. But the last thing that North Carolina wants to do is get into this back and forth game with Florida State, because Florida State's going to win that battle. So they have to slow it down at times, just get possession. That means Fossey dropping in. That means Olmark getting on the ball. More experienced players that have been in these types of situations, just to be able to bring some patience to this game for North Carolina, because right now Florida State's just been smothering, winning the ball back, and now able just to play the game that they want to.
Rematch of the ACC Tournament Championship game happening here tonight at Dorrance Field. That was a 3-2 victory for Florida State in that one. Second straight win for the Seminoles in the series. Had a 4-2 win in Tallahassee in the regular season last year.
That's great recognition for Munson, though. Just to realize they only have one player up top in Dudley, so she can release herself on the dribble, create a 2v1 on this near side with Devi, see if they can bypass Simmons. Then you get more numbers into the attacking half of the field for North Carolina. Just about reading that at the right time and doing it the execution at the right time as well.
Yeah, she's special, this freshman, Hope Munson, number 9 for the Tar Heels. I know you've been impressed with what you've seen from her so far, and she's been asked to carry a lot of this load in the back line alongside Gattino. Well, Wednesday at 6 Eastern, number 6 Notre Dame hosts this number 18 North Carolina team in women's soccer. That will be followed by 5th-ranked Pitt taking on 10th-ranked SMU at Moody Coliseum in volleyball. Both of those also available on the all-new ESPN app. So Florida State in the box, and then Gundry again in her defense, out to meet it. Corner, though, is conceded, second of this first half for Florida State.
Well, a smart run from McCormack for Florida State, because if there's going to be numbers around Hudson and Dudley for Florida State in the attack, then those late runs out of the midfield will be important. Really difficult to track defensively if you're North Carolina. So well done already from McCormack to be able to read that situation and earn another corner kick.
Taylor Suarez, 2-time Gatorade North Carolina Player of the Year in high school. Puts the ball into the box. It goes off the gloves of the goalkeeper. Hit another player on the way out, so it'll be another corner coming from the other side.
A nervy moment for Gundry as she goes up confidently, but just through her hands. Traffic's around her. Really needs to be holding on to that in that moment. But if you're Florida State, you're reading that, you're seeing that immediately. You're just continuing to float balls into the box and force Gundry to have to come off her line and make the play.
So is the junior goalkeeper, who had no appearances her first 2 years with the Tar Heels, a little rattled perhaps. We'll see if Florida State is ready to test her once again. More driven ball this time. Put back, but out of play. A couple of missed opportunities, feels like, with Florida State, with some of the advantages that they have so clearly, targets like Dudley and Hudson on set pieces. Munson, again, reading what's in front of her, and the answer was nothing initially, so she carried it forward.
Just needs to be careful in that moment, because if they do give up the ball in a dangerous area, then immediately Florida State's going to attack with numbers. But again, it's well read for North Carolina to realize that no one's actually wanting to step up, more suited to cut out the passing angles instead of somebody dribbling out of the back.
Delarose picks it up. A much-needed leader in this Tar Heel team that turned over so many players to the pros into graduation. Coming off that national championship one that ended a 12-year title drought for the Tar Heels. Simmons looking for the run. McCormack provides it in the box, gets past the defense. That was beautifully orchestrated by Florida State.
Well, look who it is having to defend Kennedy out of the midfield. That is her player, and that's why it's so difficult. You force players to track, make sure the timing's right, but it's a wonderful run from McCormack just to time it perfectly, add another number, and give a little bit of verticality to that attack for Florida State. Kennedy does well to stay with her, makes the play defensively, but saw the nervy moment for Gundry just previously on the set piece, so they have to make sure they get this out of danger, North Carolina defensively.
Suarez once again doing the honors, fourth corner for Florida State. Headed away initially, chance to put it back. Back post, Gilchrist was there, and then the ball tantalizingly close, but eventually cleared out.
Well, it's the second phase that can be most dangerous. Deal with the first one, but then it's put back into a dangerous area, and the lack of marking for North Carolina almost cost them.
A lot of these players on both of these teams you'll see or have seen over the last couple of years on youth national teams for the U.S. Gilchrist, part of that group. Got a U17 World Cup coming up that will affect both programs.
I feel like Gilchrist has been at Florida State for 10 years.
Well, she is a senior. But it's been good since day one. Yeah, she stepped right in as an all-freshman team selection in 2022. Started just about every match that year, and then, of course, was a big part of that national championship team for Florida State in 2023. Looks like some subs coming. Florida State bringing in Soleil Washington, a player who's certainly started plenty of matches, 4 of them on the season, coming off the bench tonight. She will replace Hudson. Only change thus far.
Well, it's that depth for Florida State that they have the luxury of to bring players on even early on in this first half. Rotate, continue to get fresh legs in, and that's why it is important for North Carolina to ride some of these waves. Just make sure defensively that they're sound, especially here at home, and build into this game and find moments when they can attack with more numbers than just Olivia Thomas.
Penny played it back, but it is given right back to Simmons and the Seminoles. Suarez has Dudley central. Penny lost it, a couple of giveaways in a row.
Well, that's the thing that's letting them down. They're picking off balls early on and smothering North Carolina defensively, but then it's that final pass, the connections, that they're rushing a bit too much, Florida State, so giving it right back to North Carolina and letting them off the hook.
It's interesting looking at the national rankings. Florida State coming in number 7 in this match tonight, and they were number 3 in the preseason poll. North Carolina was number 1. Of course, you expect the Tar Heels would drop after a couple losses on the road at SEC teams, Tennessee, and then at Georgia. Florida State has not lost. All they did was go to Kansas and tie.
You're out of there.
Down they go. But obviously this team has been making some adjustments too. They were really frustrated after that trip out to Kansas. That came in week 3 of the season for Florida State. That's part of what prompted the formation change, and maybe a little bit of a shift too to just being who they are in terms of their attack.
I think that makes it scary for everyone else, because when you think about the chip on the shoulder they had after the early exit, winning the ACC tournament, but then also the early exit in the NCAA tournament, to this year dropping in rankings, all those things will be fuel to the fire for Florida State. Already in this game, you see the loads of talent they have.
A lot of space here for Olmark, though. Tries to go the other side through Kennedy. Debbie puts it back across.
This is much better for North Carolina. There's the patience. They've driven Florida State back defensively, so now they have time to be able to possess in these moments. That's where they'll want to rest.
Well, Gattino played right into the trap, thought she could split through it, instead nearly gave it away.
Well, and that's where she was looking for an angle from one of her midfielders, and they're doing so much work to help out on both sides of the ball that at times just going to have to move the ball around to the back three for North Carolina to draw some of that pressure and then open up space in behind as becomes more of those subs for Florida State.
I want to give you our Week 4 ACC Network football lineup. It begins Saturday at noon Eastern with Louisville hosting Bowling Green. Then, listen up, Florida State fans, 7th-ranked Florida State hosting Kent State, and then we'll cap the night with Virginia hosting Stanford at 7:30. All games also available on the all-new ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. A number of changes making their way onto the field for Florida State, including this player, Anasia Colon, senior transfer from Arizona State. Nanya Torre, a freshman number 7, also coming in to change the look of things a little bit. Mariangela Jimenez, Lara Dantas, also joining the Seminoles on the field. And I think that catches you up on all the changes.
Line changes.
Well, Brian Pensky said he was not going to be afraid to go to his bench early and often.
Well, nor should he, just given the amount of talent. Allowing for players to be able to come in, showcase their abilities, but also just create the tempo and a direct tempo that they want. They knew there's a lack of depth with this North Carolina team. They can't rotate as many players, much as Florida State, so their ability to push the pace, especially away from home, is necessary for the Seminoles team.
This ball goes all the way up and over to Addie Todd. Both of these teams have made changes in goal this season. Addie Todd does appear to be the number 1, as she was last season, started every match for the Seminoles. And then for North Carolina, Gundry has started now 7 times on the season. But maybe a little bit of a surprise there, as Leah Brooks, a transfer from Washington State, started the year in goal, but did concede all 4 of those goals in the 2 losses at Tennessee and Georgia. Time winding down in our first half from Chapel Hill, still scoreless. It rarely stays that way between these 2 programs. Jen Hildreth, former 2-time ACC Offensive Player of the Year. Lori Lindsay, happy to be here on the call from Chapel Hill. Soleil Washington, the closest player for Florida State, unable to get there. Ramsey's getting the crowd excited about something over here. Good crowd on hand tonight for this matchup. Beautiful night in Chapel Hill, too. It's the perfect kind of day you want to be on a college campus and watching a soccer game or playing one. Kennedy under some duress. Freshman now makes her 7th start of the season tonight. Had missed a couple of matches away with the US U17 team.
We got to give credit right now to North Carolina defensively, not conceding goals. There's been a few nervy moments where it looked like Florida State was going to be able to pounce on some loose balls. Gundry with the one that went through her hands off the corner kick. But at times right now, Florida State being their own worst enemy, playing a little too quickly. It's allowing North Carolina to be able to get a toe in, separate the ball. It's opportunities for Florida State to continue to play quickly, but connect their passes, make sure that they find the better matchup, swing it side to side, and really force North Carolina to have to chase defensively.
Torre lost it in the midfield. Young player who Brian Penske really excited about out of Silver Spring, Maryland.
Well, that's the play that I was talking about, just Torre giving the ball right back to North Carolina, and then they go on and attack. Just keep possession, move it quickly. Dudley's doing a really good job of popping off the back line of North Carolina and providing an outlet consistently.
A lot of the action taking place between the 18s. That ball, while you do want to challenge North Carolina, try to get beyond that back line, Florida State has hit a few of those, they just haven't been right.
Well, you can see how narrow the field is for Florida State. Do want to push, they want to find that space in behind, but it's not on, and the ball's not the right type of ball with a little backspin that's going to float in behind and die for the attacker. Then just move it, but you have to be a little bit more patient to allow for the wide player to get higher up the field.
Dantas, number 6, a Brazilian for Florida State, sophomore. Part of the U20 World Cup with Brazil last year. 2 assists on the season. We'll get things restarted. Neither team has had a shot in over 15 minutes. It's been over 20 for North Carolina. You feel like, Lori, especially earlier in the match and on that corner kick opportunity, Florida State maybe has had a little more of the play the way they wanted it in this first half. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. And we knew that they would rotate players as well, and sometimes that comes with a little bit of risk. And when I say risk, it means sometimes you lose some of that connection that you've had, just the understanding in terms of partnerships, and we're seeing that right now. Just the amount of changes they made, haven't been able to keep possession, haven't really been able to be super threatening against North Carolina, and they'll be happy about that, because if more it's played in this middle of the area away from their defensive third, North Carolina, the happier they'll be at this moment.
Wow, Gazzino made sure Jordynn Dudley's going to remember her name when they leave this match. These two have already had some good battles. OKK put that a little out of reach initially for McGrew, but the Seminoles there to help each other out.
Really good work.
Gilchrist.
And for how good Gilchrist is and the quality that she brings, it's just a poor ball. It's just a poor ball just to play in behind with no real runner trying to get on the end of it. Just look for your midfielders, connect a pass, and then see if you can draw North Carolina out a little bit and then open up space into Dudley in Washington.
2 changes for the Tar Heels. Lauren Malsom and Aries Freifeld, a couple of freshmen making their way onto the field for North Carolina. They replace Fossey and Kennedy. We certainly know that Florida State has the ability to be dangerous when they are direct. They have that, but they do also have the skill of the players to be able to play and keep it in possession, much like you'd seen more of Florida State soccer in previous years. And maybe it feels like they've fallen a little bit in love with that direct play in this first half.
Well, it's also a fine line because their ability to be so dangerous when they go quickly, but they need somebody just to slow things down at times, put their foot on the ball. Again, you're just forcing balls in, and North Carolina will be happy in this moment because even if they've had a formation change to give themselves a little bit more security defensively, this is a talented back line that understands when to drop, when just to give themselves a bit of space in behind. Just right now, no one getting a hold of the ball, back and forth play.
Well, Fossey, apologies, is still out there. Thomas, one of the players who went out. Those two just got tangled up. It's eventually going to be a foul against Florida State, so Washington pleading her case. All freshman team selection last year, Washington. Debbie expected a full scouting report on her, Lori, after she was part of your team that you were general manager of at the TST tournament this past summer. Delarose as well. U.S. women who won that 7v7 tournament.
So my scouting report is get Debbie on the ball and let her run at you.
Was that your plan?
Yeah, exactly.
She was MVP, wasn't she? Here's Olmark. Debbie puts it in the box. Todd had to win it in the air. Best chance of the night so far for North Carolina.
And every time they've gotten the ball out wide, North Carolina, they look dangerous in these moments because Florida State's been late to get pressure out. Their wing backs have dropped back so deep that Debbie has time to be able to serve that ball in, trying to find the head of Fossey, who's now leading the line up top with Thomas getting a little bit of rest. The more that they can find those wide areas in North Carolina and move the ball side to side, the more success they're going to have.
Dudley on it now for Florida State. Still has it at her feet. Dudley leads this Florida State team in assists, as she did last season.
I actually like that no call. Olmark was trying to get on the end of it.
Oh, Dudley flicked it through for Washington. Washington outside of the foot. That looked like it was about to be the opening goal of this match. Dudley set it up on a dime.
And a huge save from Gundry to stay connected to the back line, comes off. But look at the ball from Dudley just to know exactly where Washington is. Behind the legs, Gatino hadn't stepped tight enough. Gives her the space. Right there's a little slip-in ball, and then Washington looking to get faced up, but should have gone with her left just to slot it into that far post. Instead tries to go with the outside of her right, gives Gundry that opportunity, but she makes herself as big as possible. And what a save at this moment. Even though North Carolina hasn't had a ton of opportunities, they're holding on, they're starting to build a little bit more into the game, and I imagine getting a little bit more confidence with keeping Florida State off the score sheet and Gundry doing what she needed to do in that moment.
Yeah, third save already for the junior goalkeeper out of Wake Forest, North Carolina. Came through the North Carolina Courage Academy. Bided her time. Was not picked as the starter, but earned the starting spot as the season has gone on. Olmark maybe thought Fossey was going to cut back to the ball. Instead, Fossey was off and running the other way. Is giving Gilchrist that space at the moment. Just looks like Lori trying to cut off some of those short options, almost daring her maybe to play that ball over the top.
Well, and also it just allows them to stay tight between the lines, not get too expansive defensively and open up gaps. Because we've seen a few different times Dudley with her movement, well, she'll start high and then she'll pop in, and you see where this happens is they're in good position to win the ball back. Forces Gilchrist into playing a ball that she doesn't really want to play in. But also limits that space. Another good ball into Delarose for her to be able to get faced up.
Delarose, Fossey charging after it. First team All-American, Herman Trophy winner, 20 goals to lead the nation last year for Kate Fossey. 5 goals, 3 assists this season. Seminoles the other way with Washington, breathing down the neck of Alvarez. Well done, very composed clearance from Gundry. Well, be sure to stick around. Really special feature coming your way at halftime, where you'll hear some of North Carolina's players and maybe a couple of us in the booth talking about what we would say to our younger selves. Plus, we'll give you a look at what is to come in the ACC this week. Peyton Norse, the most recent substitute, taking Dudley off for these final 7 minutes of the first half. Norse, redshirt sophomore out of Denver, Colorado. It feels like North Carolina has grown into this half a bit.
Yeah, they certainly have. Starting to try to keep a little bit more possession, but you can see also just the pressure from Florida State immediately. If they're beaten, they get numbers back, and they're forcing North Carolina to have to play a bit quicker than they're most comfortable playing. So at times, just put your foot on the ball, even though you know the pressure's going to come. Even if it's a 3-yard pass, just pass it, get it back, create a different angle, then you can go out the other way. That's what's going to be important for North Carolina, to bypass the initial pressure from Florida State and then be able to rest a little bit when they are in possession. But both teams right now just forcing it a bit too much once they get into the final third, giving it right back. We've seen the majority of this game as of late played in this middle third.
Yeah, it feels like both teams forcing what they want to do versus what the game is giving them, right? Always a balance as Alvarez is able to come forward, look across.
Really the first big test for both of these teams, too, on both sides of the ball. The threats that each team has in the attack, but also defensively. So a bit to be expected that they're going to have to try to play at a higher tempo than they want and be a bit uncomfortable in these moments.
Curious to see Delarose, too, how much she's able to go tonight. Talking to Damon Nahas, don't expect her to be back physically ready for a full 90. As I said, came off the bench the previous 4 and is impactful. They haven't taken her off yet in this first half. Shows you how much she means.
It's almost like they can't take her off. Just with her experience, she's provided some really good angles and just an exceptional athlete. Her ability to cover ground. Also one of those TST teammates.
No wonder you guys were so good.
Oh yeah, I said you do the running. Great, and score the goals.
Smart lady. Heather O'Reilly also a big part of that.
Allie Krieger, just the exceptional group. But really, anybody will tell you it's the young players that got us through.
If you guys haven't followed that, it goes on here in Cary, North Carolina. It has for the last few years. That was just the second year of having a women's division, right?
Yep.
And the U.S. women back-to-back champions?
Back-to-back. Gonna try to go for the third. Might even try to come out of retirement.
Oh boy, watch out. Told you we were gonna have some throwback pictures and videos at halftime, folks. She's just giving you a little tease there, what you might see. We came on the air talking about championships. Both of these teams believing they have what it takes to compete for them again. Deadlocked at 0 so far tonight.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Fossey. Really unfortunate because she holds up the ball really well. And you can see, we've seen it a few different times, just her change of pace to be able to get herself back up, get to the ball first. Right here, does such a good job. Just the last second steps in. Actually doesn't even look like a foul. Comes in really well, wins the ball initially, and see her reaction. Maybe heard me from the booth.
Yeah, she certainly looked frustrated after that. Had both goals in that ACC championship game for North Carolina in their 3-2 loss. Rihanna Hudson wound up having the game winner for Florida State in that match. Florida State not done going to the bench yet. Gianna Riley, one of the two coming on, along with Nareen Ahmad. Riley, a senior transfer from Gonzaga with the Seminoles last year. Ahmad, a freshman. Left in our first half to see if either team takes an advantage into the locker room. Fossey might need to be careful here. Just had a foul. This will be a yellow.
I thought that was going to be a yellow because Fossey is just trying to track down Gilchrist, who sees a little bit of space. And right there, it's just a forearm in the back, upper back of Gilchrist that gets the yellow card for Fossey. Doing the work defensively, hasn't been on the ball as much as I'm sure she would like and is accustomed to. Actually one of the best attackers in the college game, lethal in front of goal, but putting in the work necessary on the other side of the ball for North Carolina late in this first half.
Dantas ready with the free kick, keeps it on the ground. OKK now finds the front line, but North Carolina had it covered. Yeah, Florida State has just felt out of sorts in this first half. I mean, especially, look, they're making a lot of changes, but sometimes that can work to your detriment. Whereas North Carolina, as we said, seems to be growing, creating more chances, takes a shot, and I thought that was headed to the back of the net.
Oh, it's just about being clinical and finding those moments when they can separate themselves, and that's the player that you want on the ball is Fossey. Just timing her run, gets herself a little bit wider to get herself faced up in this moment, and typically is not missing from that angle. Trying to wrap her foot around it to aim to that far post, just can't do enough with it. Sends it just wide. That's a good opportunity late in this first half, and immediately they go from defense to offense. They find a little bit of gaps in between that back line and midfield for Florida State. But to your point, Jen, this is a Florida State team that's used to smothering teams, trying to score early, putting teams under a lot of pressure, and North Carolina did a good job of weathering that storm early on, and now they've been able to grow in the game, even if it's not pretty in terms of keeping possession at all times. They've used their defensive posture, their stability to keep themselves in this game and really kind of put Florida State off of their game, even if the amount of players that they've rotated in this first half, the fresh legs they brought on.
Final seconds now ticking away in the first half. Matchup of the last two NCAA champions here at Dorrance Field tonight, and both coaches, both teams will head to the locker room, Lori, with some game planning to do for the second half after a scoreless first 45.
Well, in a lot of ways, I feel like both teams will be pleased with the way that they went.
We're ready to go for the second 45. Nicole Green gives the whistle, and the Tar Heels have it for a moment. We'll get it back. Belligatino coming up from the back line. Sophia Wynn looking for Dudley. Dudley back out to start the second half. Brianna Hudson is not leading scorer for the Seminoles. Here's Wynn. Suarez back to McGovern. To the end line and out of play. Cameron Simmons forcing the issue, earning a corner early.
Very much starting the second half like they did the first half, putting numbers forward, earning set pieces. So this is where North Carolina just want to make sure they're disciplined, know exactly who their player is and who they're marking, cannot concede early. One of the more dangerous opportunities came off the set pieces in that first half for Florida State.
Suarez from the corner falls back out. Una McCormack lost it though, and this gives the Tar Heels a chance in transition. Gattino trying to get it and bend it around that last defender, had Fossey on the run.
It was worth the opportunity because they had numbers back behind the ball in good shape. So even if Gattino's going to try that attempt to float it in behind, they can win it and go again.
Debbie right across the middle of the box. Fossey plays it back. Delarose didn't want it. Ball put back, far post. Thomas, that was it. That's exactly what North Carolina would have wanted.
Yeah, that was the opportunity. And it starts with the patience from Delarose. This is something we really didn't see in the first half for either team. Instead of attempting that shot from distance, just keeps the ball moving. Then they get a better ball into the 6-yard box. And Thomas typically doesn't miss from that moment in that position. Just splits the two defenders. No one picks her up and just gets underneath it to send it over the crossbar. But the positioning of Thomas to make herself available, but also just the patience from North Carolina is what makes that play happen.
8 goals, 2 assists on the season for Thomas. 6 goals in the last 4 games, including the game winner in the Tar Heels ACC opener at Virginia Tech. 87th minute, she put that one away. But I don't know, that might have been the first time we saw North Carolina pull the string side to side in the attack like that this whole match.
Well, and you mentioned it at the end of the first half about Delarose potentially on some limited time restriction, just limited minutes throughout this game, but really couldn't afford to take her off in that first half, and showing her ability and the reason why she needs to stay on this field. Just the patience, but also just the maturity to keep the ball moving.
Thomas trying to hold off Gilchrist. That is a great matchup. You're looking at 2 of the best, not only in the ACC, but in the country in terms of Gilchrist defensively. Thomas, what she brings offensively.
It's a really good start, positive start from North Carolina in this second half. On the front foot, finding their midfielders more often. And it looks like the North Carolina team that we're accustomed to seeing, especially under Damon Nahas, of the possession, but also a little bit more direct play as well. So marrying those two, a bit too direct, I felt like, in the first half for their liking. It just is easily given right back to Florida State. So then it became a bit too transitional for North Carolina. Now seemed to, in the opening minutes, to have a little bit more of a handle in this game.
Simmons stopped in her tracks, but it does bounce off of North Carolina. Florida State played a 3-back much of last season, shifted to a 4 after about 3 games this season. Gets this one through, or I should say it started in the 4, shifted to the 3, which is what they're in tonight. Trying to just get the most out of all the players that they have positionally. Some pressure on up top. Liked what Hudson and Dudley were doing. Interesting that Hudson doesn't start this second half.
Especially with the form and the confidence that she's been playing with, and the connection between her and Dudley. Didn't really see that, though, in the first half. They're able to find Hudson consistently, and one of the things that Brian Pinsky even mentioned to us about they're trying to work on her, just being more ruthless, playing in behind. And in this type of game, when you have North Carolina that switched to formation, they did this last year as well against Florida State, went to a 3-back formation to give themselves a little bit more security defensively. But they want Hudson to test the back line a bit more, especially with Dudley being the one that drops off the back line and offers the ability to get the ball to her feet. And at times, both of those players were doing the same movement in the first half. Washington offers that ability and that vertical threat a bit more than Hudson right now.
And gosh, Dudley is good when she does get dropped in and get herself in a position to set up. I mean, she had that gorgeous ball to Washington where she flicked it past the defender. North Carolina's defense has been good in this game. It took something special like that to break it through, but Washington just putting it right at the goalkeeper. Whistle blows, that'll stop this play.
Or maybe Thomas is going to be called for a yellow card, or just for continuing to play on once the whistle was blown and getting a little bit of a talking to. But that's been the difference to start this second half for North Carolina. Thomas, all smiles, also a TST teammate.
Are there any more I need to know about? I didn't remember that Thomas is on the team as well. So Thomas,
she's
Delarose.
Yep.
Munson.
Debbie.
No. Debbie.
Yep.
Okay.
Fossey.
There are more.
Old Mark was supposed to. Then went with the youth national team.
Guys just out here recruiting, as you should. Oh, that is an absence of a whistle. Florida State can't believe it. Thought for sure they'd get a penalty. Let's take another look.
Well, and this was one of the concerns coming into this game for Damon Nahas, is if they allow. Oh, listen, I actually think this is a good no call, because I think it was Gattino was in a good position, wasn't moving, and it was Dudley that actually got her foot clipped as she was coming through. But that was a concern for Damon Nahas coming into this game. Those loose balls that they didn't take care of defensively.
Look at Dudley go, then tried to bend it in. Yeah, that bouncing ball, that is exactly the position they don't want to be in defensively, right? Because players like Dudley are so good.
And they time it, mix up the ground so well. Here she is just showing her ability. What a first touch that is, the bypass, and then just the presence of mind. 2, 3 defenders. Just the last second, just stabs at it, gets underneath it, so it doesn't take it cleanly. That's so good with the ball at her feet. And obviously we talk about her ability to get in behind as well, but just exceptional when she gets faced up and can take players on. So many different tools. Just continues to mature as a player.
Was the most outstanding player of the College Cup 2 years ago for Florida State when they won it all. Suarez continuing with pace, tried to thread the needle.
Well, that's something that you and I, back to that in a second.
Yeah, Dudley's back on it, has it blocked. She has been much more dangerous to start this second half. Fossey, this is where she can feast.
Look at Thomas in the middle of your screen.
Cutting across, and then Fossey left it short.
Well done defensively, because they made it predictable for themselves. They saw the run from Thomas and made sure they had 2 players around Fossey just to make it predictable, force her to play that ball quickly. Picked off. But one of the things that you and I were talking about at the other end for Florida State, sometimes they just make it so narrow. It's easy for North Carolina to get a lot of numbers back behind the ball, don't have to do the side-to-side movement.
That's maybe the 3rd time Dudley's tried that flick. It worked beautifully the first time. This time North Carolina was ready for it. Debbie. Freshman gets around the corner, gets the ball on the ground in front of the goal. Gorgeous setup.
Well, her ability to cover ground, but also go 1v1. What a ball that was for Debbie.
McCormack defended well by the freshman Riley.
Defensively, this has been such a good performance for North Carolina across the board. Everybody participating. Debbie's the one that sliced that ball across the 6-yard box and then immediately comes back, creates a 2v1 advantage to win it back, and here she is. And somebody just needs to tell her to put her foot on it. Let's move it.
Debbie crossing again. Thomas.
Or don't listen to me, put it into the mix.
Both teams have looked more dangerous. Great adjustments coming out of halftime. If this is any indication of how this half's gonna go, I'm in for it. Debbie. Thomas wants to get the turn. Florida State stayed right on her back. Still alive.
Really one of the first times that we've seen Florida State pin back in their own half without an outlet up top.
Gattino, tough ball to handle and keep in play. Ashley Penny, sophomore, came off the bench last season, had 1 assist, appeared in 23 of the matches for the Tar Heels. Started now all but 1 this season. Do have a player down, and it is Jordynn Dudley for Florida State. Entirely sure what happened. She has been dynamic, really, to start this second half. 2 goals, 5 assists on the season. Seems to be favoring that right leg a little bit. Junior out of Milton, Georgia, has been a game-changing type player for Florida State since she burst on the scene as ACC Freshman of the Year 2 years ago. Really hasn't let up. 9 goals, 11 assists. Last season, 2-time All-ACC first team selection.
I think the biggest thing that stands out with those stats is the 11 assists. Wasn't even here for the entirety of the season last year. Comes in and no doubt is a threat in front of goal with her finishing capabilities, but also just her ability to bring others into the game as well, pick out the right pass. And you need that with this team that wants to be direct. They want to put teams under pressure, and at times you just need somebody that can play that pass with the right pace, the right execution, timing of the ball.
And great to see her back to her feet. Hopefully she'll be able to get back here for Florida State. We'll have to come off, but we'll see what Brian Penske does. I would imagine he's going to have a chat with her and see if she's able to come back in. We'll want to be sure to tell you about next Wednesday. We've got a couple other days of the week you need to make sure you're paying attention to. 6 Eastern, we've got Notre Dame hosting this North Carolina team in women's soccer, and then some volleyball. 5th-ranked Pitt taking on 10th-ranked SMU. Both of those also available on the all-new ESPN app. So at the moment, Florida State will be down a player while they determine if they're going to have to send a sub in for Dudley or not. Looks like she's going to try to taper up and get back out there. Just to wait for the referee's signal to come back into play. 5'11", excellent basketball player in high school as well, out of Milton, Georgia. So Dudley being waved back on. There is a sub, though, for North Carolina. Aries Freifeld replacing Delarose, at least for the moment. We wondered when this would happen. You are allowed to come back in the second half. Delarose still coming back, not 90 minutes fit yet in terms of recovering from her injury. Dudley immediately being asked to chase. Debbie got there first for North Carolina, and then the two Tar Heels just got in each other's way. When? There are collisions happening all over the field.
The bodies are flying. A couple North Carolina players running into each other, trying to make the play defensively, and then Debbie cleaning it up right before they earn the free kick.
Belligatino, just a sophomore, member of the ACC freshman team last year. It's great connection on and off the field with Thomas. Those two calling each other Flick and Flack last year. Not quite the ball Gatino wanted on that delivery. Brianna Hudson now replacing Washington. And we'll see how she may change things. Leading scorer for the Seminoles on the season, started the match. I do agree, though, Lori, kind of with what you said. Things seemed to flow really well when Washington was out there with Dudley in terms of the runs they were doing, the way they were playing off one another. But Hudson has produced for this Florida State team. That's what they need right now, looking for some goals. Both teams stuck on 0 in this one. Florida State a little unsure who is going to step up to that ball. No Mimi Van Zanten tonight, who you'd normally expect to see along that back line. At least in the starting 11 somewhere for the Seminoles. The freshman Jada McGrew alongside Okeke and Gilchrist. It's Okeke. Hudson steps over the defender. Dudley waiting for runners all around her.
Oh, Kennedy's been excellent in the midfield, tracking players, whether it's McCormack coming out of the midfield in that first half, or that time just intervening, not allow Dudley to get faced up, and the work that they've had to put in at times, especially when Florida State's willing to push players forward and take a few more risks. Just need to make sure in this moment right here they don't get too stretched. Big gaps open up like we're seeing right now, and that back line's isolated.
Suarez with some space to work with, goes out wide. Ball put back toward Dudley, header, goal! Jordynn Dudley finds the back of the net for Florida State.
Well, they've been doing all the work defensively, North Carolina, but any times gaps open up and that back line for North Carolina has to drop off, this is what's going to happen. It's a numerical advantage for Florida State, but what a ball that is, just to find Dudley, and then everybody's scrambling at the last second, chasing the ball, and it's just a matter of time for them to be able to get themselves in this position, find Dudley wide open. No one picks her up defensively for North Carolina, but what a finish that is. Doesn't need to attack it too aggressively, just waits to meet the ball and then just floats it into that far post to put them up 1-0.
Gorgeous play, and let's give some credit to Anasia Colon, the senior transfer from Arizona State, who found Dudley with that ball with their third goal of the season. Colon, 5th assist of the season, and the best player on the field, at least to start the second half, just finished off the first goal.
Well, it's one of the reasons why it's tough when you bring out a player like Della Rose and her experience, just to keep the balance within the team, because Kennedy's been so good in the midfield for North Carolina. But after she had made that defensive play, floated out wide, it left that midfield vacant, and that's when they were able to attack, find space right in front of the back line of North Carolina. And anytime Dudley's in that position, well done from Gundry to come off her line. It looks like Dudley is still in some pain as she's down.
Yeah, clearly she's having some pain in that right knee that was wrapped up. Just made a lunge for the ball and stayed down after that. Was not subbed for last time she was sitting down. I imagine you might see that this time around, especially now with the lead for Florida State. And Brian Penske does have plenty of options, but I mean, I think Dudley's just shown her quality in so many different ways. I mean, who else do they have that holds up the ball? I mean, she does it as well as anybody, but that, I think, is where they'll miss even maybe more so than that finishing we just saw.
Well, Hudson can also do that. The ability and what they were looking for is for Dudley to step in and then Hudson to run beyond. But if Dudley has to come off, then you do have Hudson who can check in, and then depending on who partners up with her up top, then Washington could be the one that tucks in behind, as we've seen even when she's with Dudley.
And just a few minutes ago, Florida State breaking through. That space in the midfield vacated with Della Rose on the bench. Suarez sets up Colon.
And just look at the positioning of Gattino. No one's looking to see over their shoulder who they're marking. Everybody's ball watching, just wide open. And with the player of Dudley's quality, just cannot leave her that free right inside the 18-yard box. Just makes it too easy. She's not going to miss from that angle. Have to see her have to walk off gingerly in that moment.
And you could see Gattino caught. Does she go with Hudson? Did she go with Dudley? And just needed more numbers there for North Carolina, because you don't really want to leave either one of them.
And communication.
Yeah.
Just saying, hey, bring Munson back in to collect Hudson, and I'll stick with Dudley.
Looks like Ashlyn Anderson, a freshman, will be the one to come on and take the place of Dudley. 8th appearance of the season for Anderson. Another one of those players who has some US U17 experience. Freshman from Indiana. First time we've seen her in this match, was not one of the 9 subs used by Florida State in the first half, I don't believe. North Carolina had some good momentum going too, though, prior to that Florida State goal. What do the Tar Heels need to do, Lori, to try to get back into the groove they started this half with?
Well, one, just to keep possession at certain moments. They can't get caught out defensively. Easy turnovers in the midfield that led to the goal. So keeping possession, just being mindful of the pressure that they're going to continue to see from Florida State. And then also just picking out the right pass, because they're going to have to start to send players forward to try to get one back.
Debbie on it in the corner. Across with the left in front of the area.
Well, let's not forget, because Thomas did have a goal up, but a great tackle. Great tackle from Munson to keep that ball alive, and Debbie's trying to go 1v1. That's what you need. Somebody that's going to change the course of this game, the momentum, swing it back into the favor of North Carolina. Starts with those types of tackles to win it back higher up the field. Put yourself in a much better position to attack with numbers. Munson goes to ground, dispossesses Florida State, and then Debbie's trying to go 1v1 situation. But those are the moments you have to wait for and then be precise in the attacking half when you get your chances.
Jimenez back on, replacing McCormack for Florida State. Lauren Malsom, another freshman who started 3 matches this year, on replacing Thomas at the moment for North Carolina. You could figure you will see Thomas again before this one is over. She and Delarose both, just a matter of when. And maybe getting a little instruction over there from the coaching staff in terms of what they'll be looking for. Malsom gets the overlapping run on that far side. Good intervention, but Florida State unable to keep it.
And that's the game that they don't want to get into with the structure defensively that Florida State had fallen into, just dropping back in, being compact. That little clip ball over the top is just going to play right into the hands of Florida State. So the patience, just the understanding of what the game's given you and what Florida State's given you is going to be necessary last 25 minutes or so.
Well, typically, when Florida State has gotten one this season, they've been able to pile on a few more. The top scoring teams in the country, ball over the top for Sophia Wynn. Wynn,
good work.
Great defensive effort from the freshman Debbie, and she sees the runner in the middle in Malsom. And you're seeing some pretty incredible, both collective and individual defensive efforts on both teams tonight.
Well, it's needed. It's just going to test them as this season goes on. We mentioned really the first big test for both of these teams. So to have to put in this work defensively is only going to help them as the schedule continues to get more stiff.
Torre back on for Suarez. Saturday morning, the ACC Huddle crew will be in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium to get you ready for another full day of football with a 2-hour pregame show. They'll have game previews along with expert analysis and featured stories right here on ACCN and the all-new ESPN app. Ball able to be put across, and then again, Dundry did enough to get there because she had some threats on that far post. Torre was lingering for Florida State. Anderson, freshman who replaced Dudley. Win with the cross. Torre wanted to flick it.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea, and you see why they line up with the two attacking midfielders at Florida State, because it's really not just the front two, it's really the front six that they want to defend with. Able to showcase that and win it back higher up.
North Carolina trailing this game after Dudley's goal in the 59th minute. Seminoles have won the last two in the series against North Carolina. In fact, the Tarheels' last win came in the 2022 College Cup. And it was a quick respite on the bench as Thomas returns. One of the most dangerous attacking players in the ACC. Thomas back for North Carolina now. Hudson maybe thinking she had someone else over her shoulder. Anderson does eventually get there along with Jimenez. Malsom lost it to win. Torre. Moment North Carolina had the Seminoles pinned into this side of the field. Torre has it. Has a little bit of the street game in her from growing up playing with her dad, who's from Ghana. She's from Maryland, but Brian Penske telling us Torre just grew up playing with her dad. And you can see a little bit of that street style in her game when she gets out there. Shifty, smart, sometimes does the unexpected.
Well, just creative with her ideas, and has a lot of deception to the way that she wants to play. Difficult for defenders to really read the types of balls that she's flicking on or final passes that she's playing.
That Ullmark-Fossey connection hasn't quite clicked yet in this match for North Carolina. It is so lethal if and when it does. Fossey having to handle the pressure that came with the incredible season she had last year, winning the Herman Trophy, the Honda Award, first team All-American, leading the country with 20 goals. And that was after her first two seasons, where she didn't even start for this Tar Heel team. So quite a different feel coming in as one of those targeted, marked players now for North Carolina.
Well, and also just really challenging mentally to be able to have to adjust to the expectations coming into this season, her to meet her own expectations. So it's one of the things that we asked Damon Nahas about is how she's handling that. Already putting up some important points for this North Carolina team, but also doing so much work that goes unnoticed that doesn't always show up in the stats column either.
Yeah, he said that 5 goals, 3 assists for Fossey were more than she had at this point last season. He had to kind of remind her of that. She had no goals in the first 4, 5 goals in the last 5, including a couple of braces in that stretch. Another thing to point out, and haven't mentioned yet, Florida State does have depth, as we've talked about. They've used a lot of subs in this match, a lot of them on the field right now. Gianna Riley, the latest to come on. Florida State did travel and play on Sunday at Syracuse. North Carolina had the weekend off.
I'll tell you what, McGovern just gives up the ball right there, nearly gets caught, but I've liked the positions for McGovern, an unassuming player and different than you typically see with this Florida State team. She's the one that's really just kind of connecting, playing 1 and 2 touch, just sits in front of the back 3, and it's an important role with how many numbers that they want to push forward. And at times, if she's not sitting in there, providing a little bit of that balance, they can easily get disconnected.
That's a number 12 for Florida State. Really only started 5 matches last year. Primarily came off the bench for the Seminoles, who had quite a different look in the midfield.
There she is again. It's a great position. He easily just disrupts that forward pass. Right idea with the outside of the boot. on this near side. But it's the littlest things that are so important for Florida State, because if they win the ball back there, all of the momentum for North Carolina defensively is going forward. You find players higher up the field, and then you're looking to threaten in behind immediately. Plays all right into the hands of the way that Florida State wants to play.
And North Carolina being held scoreless so far here on their home field. They are a perfect 5-0 at home this season. They went 14-1 on Dorrance Field last season. All time, an incredible winning percentage of over 90% for the Tar Heels at home. But in danger now, needing to find a goal to get back in this one against Florida State. Jordynn Dudley, who scored the goal for the Seminoles, did have to come off a few minutes after that. Had her right knee wrapped up. Looks like she is getting set to return for the Seminoles. Goal in the 59th minute, her third of the season. The difference so far in this clash of champions in Chapel Hill tonight. These two teams have combined to win the last 12 ACC tournament titles and 33 of 38 overall. They've also won 26 of the ACC's 32 NCAA championships, most of those, of course, coming with North Carolina's 22 NCAA championships, including last year's, and then for Florida State, all of theirs coming in the last 12 years, 4 of them. So Dudley back, that's good to see. Anderson back to the bench. And then Washington back on to replace Hudson. Hudson really hasn't gotten to do much or gotten herself involved as much in this match as I think Brian Penske would have liked.
Well, one of the things that we highlighted coming into this game with Hudson too is not only the form that she's been in. Here comes Washington trying to get the better of Munson, but as well to keep her feeding, and then comes in, covers ground. I like Munson a lot. Yeah. She's helped out.
But Washington gets around her, gets a deflection. That could be trouble. Gundry reached out and grabbed it.
Oh, and reads that deflection really well. Keeps her feet moving, times it, keeps her eye on it. Washington just trying to round the corner. There's Munson again going in for the late challenge. Gatino's the one that it deflects off of, hangs up in the air, allows for Gundry. Keep 2 hands on it.
Yeah, Munson really is impressive there in the back. Fossey. Thomas back out there centrally. Fossey gonna go one-on-one against the freshman and earns the corner. First corner of the match for North Carolina. How about that? There's a yellow card shown to Torre.
Oh,
seems a little confused.
The suggestion looked like as if it had happened prior to the play, which I didn't see, maybe off the ball, but McGrew also looked like she had done well defensively, maybe to earn the goal kick, but nonetheless sets up for a dangerous opportunity potentially for North Carolina off this corner kick.
Can North Carolina capitalize on this first corner of the match? Debbie drives it toward Thomas. First ball to Florida State. Everybody hustles to get back on side. Debbie does find Thomas this time around.
Looked like it was a close handball call.
Malsom. Dantas defending. Malsom having her way. Goes down. All eyes on the referee, who points to the corner.
Well, it certainly looked like from our angle, from distance, looked like it was a penalty kick. Actually,
yeah, she's going to look at it now, so you can take another look too. Oh yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, I love this work from Malsom, just twisting and turning, creating, but it does look like she's already gone down before Dantas has even made contact. So I actually think this is going to stand as a no penalty and just go with the corner kick.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's contact unquestionably, right? Like Dantas definitely gets her
Dantas
leg.
is on the ground, and you see before she even makes contact, Malsum is already coming down on the ground as well. This looks like she loses her footing.
Yeah, and notable that the call on the field was not a penalty. It was given as a corner, so there has to be clear and obvious evidence that this was an error not to call a penalty.
Yeah, I think this is actually, you could see Malsum almost sells it, which is exceptional work as well. But right there, she's already down. She's already fallen before Dantas has even made contact with her. Yeah, I think it's initially a good no call, little stand.
Obviously, this falls into the category of what is reviewable in college soccer. No VAR, but the referee's discretion to go over and look at a situation that is penalty or no penalty. That is one of the things that can be reviewed. Tar Heels have yet to even attempt a penalty kick this season, should that be the decision of the referee. And Florida State has not faced one. Nicole Green, the referee. No penalty. Call stands. Good call, Lori. Corner kick it is.
And really good work from Dantas to be able to keep her footing the last second, but not make contact. But that's exactly what you want from North Carolina. Driving, getting players, taking on 1v1. Malsum twisting and turning. Nice little cuts to put herself in that position. But get another opportunity off of this corner kick. Have to get the quality of service correct.
Linda Allmark now over to take the corner. All ACC freshman team selection, two-time New York Gatorade Player of the Year in high school. 3 assists in the win against Alabama. Puts this one across. Great looking ball, had some options. Torre. Nifty little touch, just gets past the defender. Now she is off and running. Cologne had the assist on the Dudley goal, takes the shot, and it is saved by Gundry.
Well, they know where their opportunities are going to come from, especially when North Carolina has to start pushing more players forward to take some chances, take a few more risks. Certainly the game's going to open up, and as you mentioned, Florida State, once they usually get one, it's a wear-down effect in terms of the amount of numbers that they can bring on, fresh legs, but also just forcing the game to be stretched. It plays right into their hands.
I think there was a warning about time wasting maybe being given by the referee there. I was trying to see if I could hear what she was saying. Seminoles with the lead off Jordynn Dudley's goal, 59th minute. And what implications might this match have on the ACC regular season? Both teams unbeaten, with North Carolina having a win at Virginia Tech in conference play. Florida State, 2 ACC wins already. Foul at midfield here. But interestingly, this is the first ranked matchup for either team this season.
There's a little push in the back from Fossey that gets her caught.
Cologne. Jimenez. Maybe would have had time to do something on her own. Instead, goes for the cross, gets the corner.
Well, it's a dangerous ball to that far post because it's difficult to defend, because none of the North Carolina players really want to commit to get something on it. Everybody's facing their own goal. You get the runners coming in the 3, almost 2 situation. Olmark's tracked back, shielding as much as possible. Does clip the right foot of hers.
Many of the starters coming back in now for Florida State. Sophia Wynn, Cameron Simmons, Taylor Suarez, who also had the assist on that Dudley goal. and Una McCormack all back on now for Florida State, as they ready for their 6th corner of the match. Dudley targeting it. It was a Dudley header that created the game's only goal. "22 substitutions made in this game for Florida State compared to just 5 for North Carolina."
I was just thinking about how that eventually should favor North Carolina down the stretch, regardless of what happens in this game. Just a lot of connections. Know they have to fight for one another. Everyone has to put in their work. Very clear on their roles. On the other side, it would favor Florida State as well, because they want to wear teams down. They want to be direct. They want to send players in. But at different times of this game, you've seen the lack of connection for Florida State. Understanding of partnerships, because of them out, they make those changes. And
no whistle. Maybe looked like could have been a trip as Simmons went down. Chance in the middle. Malsom has made some nice moves, nearly earned a penalty for her team in this match. Thomas, does she have a little late game-changing magic? Thomas for Fossey, intercepted, will be a corner.
A little dip of the shoulder for Thomas to be able to offset her defender and then open up just a little bit of a space. But I like the positioning from Thomas. Typically, we've seen her more in the central role. This time, just out wide, gets face up. There's a little drop of the shoulder that allows for her to be able to separate from her defender and try to place that ball across the 6-yard box. Dealt with defensively really well from Florida State.
Love the last corner from Olmark. This one, another good look. Bounces in the box. Out for another North Carolina corner.
Now that in-swinger for North Carolina, really dangerous, unmarked 2 players for North Carolina on the far post. And right now, if you're Florida State trying to hold on to this lead, you're making sure you're communicating, sure you're picking up those players that are making those late runs.
4th corner for North Carolina along the last few minutes, none in the first half. Olmark will give it a go again. Follow up, low and saved by Addie Todd. I think technically that will go down as the first shot on goal for North Carolina in this match. It's felt a lot more even than that. Consider that North Carolina has been threatening. They've had moments with Fossey and Thomas. Just haven't been able to get the final product. Malsom.
Yeah, and much dangerous in this second half, where they've stepped up their pressure early on in the second half as well. Some better chances, and here comes Tessa Della Rose, and again on those limited minutes, so had to come out early on in this second half. Will provide hopefully a lift, some experience late in this game.
It was a tie game in Blacksburg until late, 87th minute. Olivia Thomas able to find a game winner for North Carolina in their ACC opener last Thursday. Thomas trying to track this ball down. Todd way out of her goal to get it. It is an open goal if Thomas can get it back there. Todd scurries back, front of the goal. Fossey was well defended. That was a heart-racing sequence for North Carolina, though.
Well, look at OKK putting herself in the best position to make sure that this ball doesn't find its way into the back of the net, because Todd just gets caught out, feels like she can make the play, but can't, and then Thomas just trying to float that ball to the far post, where you got the runners coming in, but OKK doing such a good job, immediately tracking back, just scanning the situation and then attacking the ball at the right moment to not allow Fossey to be able to get on the end of it.
And now you've got Tessa Della Rose as an option from the corner. You know how good she can be. Bends that one toward the goal. It goes back out. Olmark shot! And it is at the goalkeeper once again.
Yeah, the 2 attempts on goal for North Carolina back-to-back. straight into the hands of Todd. But much more threatening. Florida State is going to have to continue to make sure they don't put themselves in these positions.
You may remember North Carolina's run through the NCAA tournament last year. Delarose in the quarterfinal had an assist to Fossey in overtime off a corner kick that helped see the Tar Heels through to the College Cup. Under 10 minutes to play. North Carolina still scoreless in this one.
Mona Cooke just continues to show why she was the Defensive Player of the Week. This positioning, both sides of the ball, that time just wins it and then composes herself just to connect the pass.
North Carolina has had multi-goal scoring games in their past 6 ever since their last loss. Only 2 times they've been shut out this season, on the road at Tennessee in the season opener, on the road at Georgia 2 games later. Both losses.
Well, in this game alone, just highlighting, how many times are we going to say this throughout the season, though, the parity of this conference.
We do say that a bit. It does tend to ring true. Florida State, maybe a little insurance on the books. Look at the speed of Suarez when she gets moving with and without the ball.
And deceptive. Really deceptive from Suarez. This is a change of pace immediately. There's that flick on again, and Washington, no one actually steps to her, so she's able to play that little outside the boot pass into the path of Suarez. Huge tackle, necessary tackle for North Carolina.
Out for a goal kick now for North Carolina. It has been tightly contested, as expected.
And a lot of energy. I was going to say, even though it's been a low-scoring game, it's the 1 goal from Dudley. Really back and forth, and feels much more like North Carolina at times has been threatening, more so than just their 2 shots on goal. Both teams really force them to have to come up defensively to make plays. So that's been more impressive than really what we've seen on the attacking side for either team.
Both coaches feeling the intensity of this matchup as well. And so much, in fact, that Nejas just picked up a yellow. Look, he talked a lot about mindset, about his team not feeling like they had the will, the fight in that first game of the season against Tennessee. That was something they addressed. They've been better. Of course, he's watching closely Delarose, one of the most valuable players on the field. Maybe didn't like that foul. But what is the mindset of this Tar Heel team laid? Now is Penske going to get one? Yes, he is. I believe it was shown, was it the bench or was it a player? That was time wasting. They were warned about that already, Florida State, so Cologne does get the card this time. Well, it wouldn't be Florida State, North Carolina, that a few tempers flaring and yellow cards being shown. Suarez tapped it back out. Not close there for win. It is not easy to see out a 1-goal lead, is it? Especially not in a hostile environment, as Florida State surely feels here at Dorrance Field tonight. A team in North Carolina that has been threatening. Plenty of weapons like Fossey to have to worry about. All marks wide open in the middle, wanted it. Goes to Thomas instead. Thomas willing her way toward the end line and a corner.
Gilchrist just showing her ability defensively to go 1v1 and not be afraid to put in the tackle against Thomas. But regardless of the rotation, rotations or limited rotations that we've seen from North Carolina. Everybody's still putting in an effort. Fosse's tracking players down, getting on the end of loose balls.
Hallmark toward the goal. Todd had to get a paw to it.
Todd just doing really well. It's a few steps forward. It uses the pressure of her defender to push off and keep her feet moving. And her eyes on the ball the entire time.
7 corner kick in the last 7.5 minutes for North Carolina. Delrose again, the delivery this side. Fosse, the target.
Just enough defensively from Florida State to throw off Fosse, to not allow her to get a clean look on it. Jumps a bit too early, can't keep it on frame anywhere near it.
Todd actually down for Florida State. The referee has stopped the clock. And it probably will reset as well as some time went off. Florida State bringing Rihanna Hudson back into the match in these final few minutes. What about for North Carolina, though, Lori? Anything that they need to especially focus on or do a little differently here in these final minutes?
I think you have to continue to send numbers forward and be as direct and force Florida State to have to turn and face their own goal and chase. They can't allow this little stoppage in time stall their momentum, because you've had a few set pieces, you've had some good looks. Forcing Todd to have to come up with a few saves, even if they're point blank at her. So have to continue. That should be the mindset, and something that Damon Nahas should be telling his team. And Florida State team is going to be doing whatever they can, just relieve pressure, send it into the crowd, get numbers back behind, keep the ball in front of them, make sure those lines are tight.
Both teams talking over strategy here for the last 5 minutes, and you see the clock was reset, 44 seconds. Now there is not even a goalkeeper warming up for Florida State, so they seem pretty confident Todd's going to be able to finish this one out. As I mentioned, they have used 3 goalkeepers on the season, but Todd, I think the #1, at least for now. I know Brian Penske feels good about the crew of goalkeepers that he has, but would prefer not to have to bring somebody in here in these final 5 minutes and 44 seconds on the road in North Carolina. Well, before we get going here, I want to remind you about the all-new ACC PM, Monday through Thursday, 6 to 7 Eastern, and on Fridays, a special 2-hour football-focused edition from 5 to 7, hosted by Kelsey Riggs Cuff right here on ACC Network and the all-new ESPN app. Getting a little women's soccer love, usually on ACC PM also before our matchup, so go ahead, tune in a little bit early, check things out, maybe next Wednesday. See how these Tar Heels bounce back. Traveling to Notre Dame next Wednesday. It's Gatino goes flying, and the referee says play on. Gatino still in an advanced position, gets it all the way through. I mean, Thomas does have some, I don't even want to say sneaky fast. She is just fast, but all of a sudden she flies into the picture. These defenders have to stay on their toes.
I think it's going to be time wasting again. Yeah, it's going to be a set piece. Time wasting, I believe, on Todd this time.
Does that feel right to you?
It feels a little bit of egregious in that moment, even though we've seen Nicole Green talk about no time wasting, she's not putting up with it, but didn't really feel like that was the case for Todd. Just collected the ball and then looking to see it out, but I'm not seeing what else would have been the call at this moment.
I mean, you don't rarely see the goalkeeper called for not distributing it. It is a rule. They do have to get rid of it in a certain amount of time, but look at the opportunity North Carolina gets out of this. So that's what I agree with you. It doesn't quite seem to be on par with what the infraction was to get this chance. But nonetheless, if that's the letter of the law, and Nicole Green felt that Todd did not get rid of the ball in time, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, most importantly right now for North Carolina, you've got to get this on frame, at least force a rebound or a save. Get runners into that 6-yard box. Give yourself a chance.
Thomas had a block. Delarose was there. And look at the freshman Munson keeping this alive for North Carolina. Serves it backhand, chance in the box. Fossey has 3 defenders around her, and the offside flag comes up.
Well, it was a close call, it looked like, but regardless, both of these teams defensively, that has been the highlight right now of this game. Put it in the work, getting numbers. There's a little bit of the offside. It looks like Fossey just getting caught at last second, but credit to Florida State. In that moment, everybody knows they need to step up, stay tight as a unit. Fossey's just a little bit late.
Hudson was able to lay this ball off for Suarez. It is off of North Carolina for a corner, and you can bet Florida State will take their time here, as they have the right to do.
And they should take their time, because it's the little details right now for Florida State that they are getting right. Defensively, stepping up at the right moment, catching North Carolina offside, but then immediately knowing where the space is, quick transition moment, and they earn this corner kick, and they're just going to keep it in the corner. See this game out.
No, it took off a couple of seconds anyway. Hope Munson, freshman out of Holiday, Utah, over to take it. Looks like she's going to continue what has been an incredible run of standout Tar Heel defenders in the back. Think about Trinity Armstrong should be there. She left after her freshman year last year, go to the NWSL. Savvy King before her. Debbie is open on this near side. Malson leads her. Maybe a little too close to the defense, though.
Yeah, well read from McGrew. Really well read. Stayed in a narrow position to give herself the ability to run onto it.
McGrew, a freshman from the Charlotte area. Brian Penske telling us she is maybe the most vocal player in video. Asks a lot of questions, has stepped into this new role in the back. Washington. She's thinking time off the clock, and it's just going to force North Carolina to come over and take it away from her. Washington lost it out of play. It'll be a deep throw for North Carolina. Just over 2 minutes to play. McGrew. You know where she's headed to.
If she was saying that's foul, I thought it was a foul as well, but a quick throw in now for North Carolina. Have to get the ball forward.
It is North Carolina ball.
A smart play to see this game out for this Florida State team. And right now, you look at this Florida State team. So much talent on the front line, but all the credit to that back line, because they do take risks in the way that they want to play and send players forward. But that back line has done such a good job against Thomas, Fossey. Staying connected, stepping up at the right time, really working well off of one another and intervening at necessary times.
Yeah, it's easy to get distracted, if you will, by all of the wonderful attacking options for Florida State, but they also have only allowed 1 goal all season long. They've shut out 6 opponents. They rank number 4 in the country in goals against average.
Yeah, it's exceptional work, and they've shown that quality, especially in the most needed moments of this game.
North Carolina desperate to get it out of this corner and up the field. But once again, back it goes. 30 seconds now. It is Florida State. No, he's backing up North Carolina for the throw. 20 seconds. It's been a tough one tonight for North Carolina to get past that back line of Florida State. Wonderful weapons on both teams. But the Seminoles, through Jordynn Dudley in the 59th minute, wind up with the 1-0 shutout victory on the road tonight in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, huge win for Florida